At the beginning of 1995, a hiker disappeared in the remote mountains of Oregon. After some sightings, several members of the local community said that the guy had contracted a virus called hill fever. The tribes that once inhabited the region called it something else. Face of the wolf. A boy named Blake Lovell lives with his strict father, Grady. The two go hunting in the woods. When his father tells his son that he is very strict with him to protect him, a deer appears. Grady prepares to hunt it, but the deer escapes. When he turns to look at his son, he is no longer there. Blake runs in another direction to get a better angle on the deer. But while looking for it, he realizes that there is something else in the forest. His father finds him and scolds him for leaving so suddenly. At that moment, he realizes that there is a creature near them. The two climb up to a hunting post to take shelter. The creature appears and climbs towards them, while the father prepares to shoot it. Suddenly, a noise scares the creature away. Grady looks through his scope and is terrified when he sees it. He lies to his son, telling him it was a bear, and they go home. There, Blake notices that his father is talking to his friend Dan about what he saw. Grady knows that what he saw was not a bear, but rather a werewolf, and he asks his friend to go to the forest to hunt it so that his family will be safe. And this is how the story begins.
Welcome to Random Recaps. In this video, I'm going to recap the movie.
30 years pass, and Blake, now an adult, lives in San Francisco with his daughter Ginger and his wife Charlotte. He is also strict with his daughter, though not as much as his father was with him, but somewhat.
I'm sorry I lost my temper. That's not me.
However, he also has a bad temper that he struggles to control, as it is causing problems in his relationship. When he gets home, Blake receives a death certificate for his long-missing father and the keys to his childhood home. He is saddened to learn that his father has been declared dead since he decided many years ago to distance himself and never speak to him again. The next day, Blake talks to Charlotte about the tensions in their marriage and suggests they go with him to his childhood home to spend the summer together as a family, since they are the only ones he has left. Charlotte agrees, and the family heads to Oregon, but Blake gets lost along the way. At that moment, a local appears, a guy named Derek, who says he is Dan's son.
Oh, Derek. Shit. Oh, sorry.
Language.
He gets in with them to guide them to the house. Night falls, and while they are on their way, a creature suddenly appears. Blake swerves off the road and overturns the truck in a crash. Derek falls from the truck and is dragged away by the creature, while Blake is scratched on the arm before it leaves. Blake walks through the forest with his wife and daughter until they find the house. The creature approaches, but the family manages to get inside before it reaches them. It tries to enter the house, but Blake prevents it from doing so. He looks for a flashlight and goes to the basement to turn on the power generator. He checks that the creature is not nearby and stays with his daughter, promising to protect her. Charlotte asks him what that creature is. Blake doesn't know, but he is sure that when he saw it, it was standing as if it were a person. Blake barricades the door just in case and takes out his father's old radio to call for help.
Help.
Due to the creature's scratch, Blake starts getting sick. His sense of smell becomes heightened, and his teeth begin to fall out. Charlotte helps him with the wound on his arm, which Blake believes was a cut from the window glass, though his wife doesn't think that's the case. Charlotte tries to put Ginger to sleep while Blake continues barricading the entrance, but while doing so, he hits himself with the hammer. Blake's hearing becomes incredibly sharp, and he starts hearing distant noises throughout the house. When he investigates what is tormenting him, he realizes that it is just a spider upstairs, but he hears it extremely loudly. However, thanks to this ability, he is able to hear the creature's footsteps as it prowls around the house. Blake approaches the door, and the creature grabs him. Charlotte helps by hitting the creature with a hammer, but Blake still ends up wounded again by it. When he wakes up, Blake looks for his family hiding in the basement, but when he finds his wife calling for help on the radio, he notices that he can barely understand her. Charlotte, worried, calls for help, saying that her husband is sick due to the animal's scratch and that he hasn't realized it yet, but he can barely even speak. She notices that her husband is staring at her, trying to communicate. He urinates in front of her, and she takes him to bed. Blake's hair starts falling out. Charlotte brings him a notebook and a marker so he can communicate, and he writes that he feels like he is dying. As his wife tells him she loves him, Blake's vision begins to distort, and now he can no longer understand anything his wife is saying.
What is happening?
Charlotte notices that Blake's arm is bleeding, and when she removes the bandages, he starts scratching and biting it like an animal. His teeth keep falling out, with fangs growing in their place. She is terrified to see her husband like that, and he looks confused, as if he doesn't understand what is happening to him. She looks outside and sees a truck near the house, so she searches for the keys and some batteries to see if she can start it. She heads outside with a knife and her family towards the truck. When they reach the truck, Blake looks more transformed. Hair is growing all over his body, and his fangs have grown larger. Charlotte starts the truck, but just as they are about to leave, the werewolf appears in front of them. The family climbs onto the roof of a greenhouse. The creature tries to reach them, making Ginger nearly fall. Blake signals to his wife to take their daughter back to the house while he runs in the opposite direction to lure the werewolf away. Moments later, Blake appears limping, looking even more monstrous. His daughter approaches him to tell him she loves him, but he can barely understand her. At that moment, Blake's nails fall off completely, and he vomits a severed finger. He approaches his wife in a threatening manner, but Charlotte shows him that she is not afraid of him. Realizing what he is doing, Blake decides to distance himself from his family. But at that moment, the werewolf seizes the opportunity to enter the house and fight Blake.
Fight, 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 fight.
Charlotte stabs it and locks her daughter in the bathroom. The creature is about to attack her, but Blake appears to try and stop it. The werewolf is stronger than Blake and knocks him out to take him away. Charlotte grabs whatever she can find and, with incredible bravery, faces the creature. At that moment, Blake wakes up and bites the creature to death. When it dies, Blake looks at the tattoo on his arm and realizes that the werewolf attacking them was his infected father. Knowing that he is also infected, Blake decides to leave the house, but at that moment, his transformation completes. Charlotte tells her daughter that Blake's long-lost father was the creature and that he infected Blake with the virus. Now unable to control himself, Blake tries to enter the house to attack his family. Charlotte grabs the knife to defend herself, but Blake appears behind his daughter, ready to attack them. Charlotte manages to wound him with the knife and flees with her daughter to a nearby barn. Blake enters the completely dark barn, but he can see thanks to his night vision ability. However, it doesn't help much, as he falls into a bear trap that Charlotte had set on the ground.
Bruh.
While Charlotte and her daughter run into the forest, Blake bites his own leg to escape the trap. As best as he can, he follows his family. In the forest, Charlotte finds a hunting post near where they had the accident. She also finds Derek's body, so she searches for his weapon to defend herself from Blake. The two take shelter in the hunting post until sunrise. Meanwhile, Blake climbs as best he can toward them. Charlotte aims the rifle at him, and before she can shoot, her daughter realizes that her father is suffering and wants it to end, so her mother has no choice but to pull the trigger. Before dying, Blake looks one last time at his family, who, saddened, walk out of the forest and contemplate the beautiful valley that Blake had seen as a child. And that's how the movie ends.